am the Irish guy, and pre-season's over, and how did your youngsters do? Right now, in this video, we are going to obsess over the actual children who impressed for your club in pre-season. I am about to build them up to excruciatingly high heights. They have raised the bar for themselves, so let's hope they don't wind up looking like chubby beanie babies rotting on the bench in March. Right, let's go. Arsenal Marquinhos, age 20. Mikel Arteta hasn't really given too many youngsters many chances in pre-season. I guess 20-year-old Brazilian winger Marquinhos has impressed in flashes. I mean, he hasn't scored or anything, and right now he's just linked with a loan move away to Olympiacos or Nantes. I mean, whatever about going to Greece, please don't give your teenage boy to Nantes. You might as well send him for a sleepover at the Netherlands Ranch. Aston Villa, Jadon Philogene, age 21. If you're an Aston Villa fan, then you're probably currently hiding under your bed, clutching onto a voodoo doll of Jadon Philogene because they have been burnt before. Having seen a pre-season teen star like Carney Chukwuemeka, after about 17 touches of the ball in a Villa shirt, he was then demanding £100,000 a week, or he'd quit for Barcelona. Which just reeks of Justin Bieber behavior, who yes, probably spent his late teens threatening to slap restaurant chefs if they served him undercooked steak. But Philogene is the next teen sensation off the Villa conveyor belt, and he is a talent. This is a bloke who's also courted interest in Barcelona and PSG in the past. To be fair, Philogene only has to look at Louis Barry as a reason not to go. I mean, he left West Brom for Barcelona at 16, was quickly seen to have all the natural talent of a bowl of raisin bran, and is now just some Villa reserve player, failing at multiple lower league loans. But Philogene is a 21-year-old wing wizard. He started all 3 games for Villa in their pre-season tour of the USA. He even scored against Fulham, helped rip both Lazio and Valencia apart on home soil. He has been so good. Apparently Liverpool have been rigging up his agent. If I'm Unai Emery, then I am locking this highly sought after prospect in my attic until September 1st. Bournemouth, Ben Greenwood, age 20. I know they've just signed superstar left back Milos Kerkez, but 20-year-old Irish left-back Ben Greenwood looked pretty tasty in the first half of their pre-season tour of Spain, impressing in a 4-0 win over Hibernian, played in a narrow defeat to Maccabi Tel Aviv, and then played in a 3-2 win over Southampton. The kid looks good, even though, I mean, trying to earn plaudits with that name written on the back of your shirt, oh dear. Brentford, Michael Olakigbe, age 19. Yeah, here we've got 19-year-old Michael Olakigbe, a right winger, born in April 2004. And yeah, has been given some minutes for Brentford in pre-season. He even scored a penalty in a 5-1 win over Lille. Not bad for a kid who doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. Lads, I grew up with people who have Wikipedia pages, and these lads just work in the bank. One of them is called Podge. I mean, it sounds like shorthand for a cheap brand of Asta Porridge. They have wiki pages, but a future Brentford star doesn't. Someone who's probably getting invited over to David Beckham's house for lunch. Oh, justice for Okayipe. Brighton, Simon Adingra, age 21. Brighton have done it again. How do they keep doing this? Very soon, the Premier League top 6 is just going to be littered with ex-Brighton stars. Honestly, their scouts should are going to be given a Lamborghini each. I don't want to hear that they're all still living modest lives and having to carpool to work. They have generated absolute millions for this company. And Simon Adingra, a 21-year-old Ivorian winger who they really just bought from the pits of the Danish league. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Brighton employ some chubby middle-aged scouts to just live in a village in the Seychelles, squatting in a bush with binoculars, spying on amateur footballers playing heads and volleys on the beach. It's like Brighton have scouts covering the entire globe, just looking at anybody with a pair of football boots. Honestly, don't be shocked if one of them is looking through your bedroom window right now. Honestly, go check! Although, again, that might just be the local weirdo. You know, the one whose curtains are made from human skin. But yes, Adingra, formerly of Right to Dream, which just sounds like a hideous TV talent show, he's been class this summer, scoring both goals from the wing in a 2-0 win over Brentford. How do Brighton keep doing this? Burnley, Owen Dodgson, age 20. Shout out to Irish striker Darragh Costello, who actually made his championship debut a year ago. Oh yeah, and he's from Limerick. Did he also grow up shopping at the Crescent, studying at Julie Kilmartin's, and begging this bloke for a hug? But Owen Dodgson has been the pre-season breakout star. A 20-year-old left-back who was briefly in the academy of Manchester United, but I mean, he stood out for Burnley over this summer. He's looked strong, confident, mature at the back. Oh yeah, and even scored in a 2-0 win over Benfica. He was getting relegated at Rochdale on loan last season. Now he's learning firsthand from a Premier League icon, keeping clean sheets and scoring against a club who literally lifted the European Cup. His mates from school probably spent this summer learning how to drive and begging their dad to buy them beer. But Dodgson, I mean, stick a goal against Benfica on your Instagram. He'll soon have even his own cousins asking for a kiss. Chelsea, Ian Maatsen, age 21. Ian Maatsen is strange. I was convinced he was the next Patrick Van Aanholt, an ex-PSV Dutch left-back in the Chelsea reserves who went out on loan and lifted the championship title. Van Aanholt with Newcastle and Maatsen with Burnley. But considering Chelsea are overloaded with £50 million left-backs, this 21-year-old has been playing as a left winger in Mauricio Pochettino's Pochettino's system. And he can also play as a number 10. I mean, to any young kids trying to make their names at monster clubs, this is how you do it. Because if Matson had a dodgy preseason, if he turned up overweight after a month-long session in Ibiza, if he just half-heartedly strolled through these summer games, treating these friendlies with no real importance, just tucking into ice creams at half time, then he would have been instantly sold to Burnley. His Chelsea dream would have been shoved in a coffin and buried at sea. But no, he's been so good. He's literally forced his way into Pochettino's plans. Like burying 2 goals in a 5-0 win over Wrexham, essentially ruining Ben Foster's vlog. He has looked electric on the USA tour. I actually think right now Pochettino would sooner agree to eating pizza off a gorilla's lap than sanction a Matson sale. So honestly, well done, Ian. Crystal Palace, Jake O'Brien, age 22. Jake O'Brien is that guy. You know, that fella in school who's always good at everything? This is a 22-year-old professional centre-back for Crystal Palace who has played for Cork City. Oh yeah, and also won national championships in both hurling and boxing at under 14 level. Yeah. Another annoying boxer called Jake. Well lads, this is the type of annoying young man who probably dominated every sports day at school, just beating nerds in the egg and spoon race. Anyway, the guy's been pretty tasty in pre-season, looked smooth and slick at the back, and scored against that Colombian team Millonarios. I just wish he'd be given a game in that 2-0 win over Leon, because if he'd actually managed to pocket Alexander Lacazette, I would be so excited, I wouldn't be able to sleep. I'd be more excited about O'Brien than James Corden is when he sees a pie on a windowsill. I mean, to any championship managers who need a centre-back, I'm gonna say something that will make me sound like a cousin of Jeremy Kyle. But just go get a job! That's probably the worst joke I've ever said. Everton, Lewis Dobbin, age 20. I don't know. Have Everton really produced anything exciting in pre-season? It's so very Sean Dyche. Just scrappy, ugly wins against unfashionable clubs. Just labouring to 1-0 wins over Wigan and Stoke. And a dour 0-0 draw with Bolton. Oh yeah, and there was another 1-0 win over Sporting Lisbon. It's been so tedious and dull. The pre-season tour sounded about as entertaining as watching 2 pigeons share a sausage roll. But I guess 20-year-old striker Lewis Dobbin scored in a 2-2 draw with Monza. Is that enough to get excited about? Or am I wasting my breath? Is this like trying to convince a child on Christmas Day that they should be happy with receiving nothing more than a stocking filled with cabbage? Fulham, Luis de Figueiredo's age 17. Sorry, 17 years old. Oh, wow! No, I'm not Prince Andrew swiping Tinder on his phone. No, Luis de Figueiredo is a 17-year-old right back, literally born in October 2005. Oh, thanks for making me feel about as old as Judi Dench. Soon, we're going to be watching footballers in the Premier League who were literally born after the Zidane headbutt. I mean, should I now start buying wrinkle cream, playing chess in the park, and sorting out prostate exams? Because these children are making me feel so incredibly old that within a few years, some burly, no-nonsense nurse is going to be cleaning my nappy and feeding me mashed up sausage with a spoon. But yes, this little boy, someone who looks like he belongs as an extra in Gryffindor. He's looked pretty nifty for Fulham in pre-season. He played the full 90 minutes against Aston Villa, where he was having to come up against some sickeningly talented wingers. And yes, at times was huffing and puffing like a chain-smoking wolf outside a pig's house. But for a 17-year-old little boy, someone who's probably obsessed with TikTok and scared of Kevin Spacey, he's actually looked very good. Liverpool, Ben Doak, age 17. When Liverpool won the Champions League against AC Milan, Ben Doak was no bigger than a frog sitting in his mother's stomach, playing keepy uppies with their fallopian tubes. I mean, right? I don't know, I failed biology. Lads, it blows my mind just how young this kid is. 17-year-old ex-Celtic Academy superstar Ben Doak. He is incredible. Right now, the hype is huge. I mean, it is a little weird to see grown men start worshipping a little boy. Someone whose childhood film was probably Toy Story 3, but he has been an absolute superstar on tour. An absolutely electric winger. I can't remember this level of hype for a teenage Liverpool winger since Jordan Ibe, although his career is even more depressing than the ending $1 Million Baby. I mean, what with he and Rossiter? I'm guessing Doak is glad his mom didn't call him Jordan. I mean, superstar name in basketball, yes, but another curse in the Liverpool Academy. This 17-year-old child has terrorized defenses in pre-season, like ripping poor old Darmstadt, Karlsruhe, and Greuther Fürth apart in 45-minute cameos. He even scored in the 4-0 win over Leicester, and he got a 15-minute cameo against Bayern Munich. He completed 10 successful dribbles in pre-season, the most of any Liverpool player, by the way. This is a kid who's probably still watching Peppa Pig the last time Chelsea won the league. Don't underestimate just how much of a child he really is. Keep him away from sewer drains, because he still looks young enough to be Pennywise's prey. I'm gonna say this, by the end of the season, after chewing the Europa League apart on toast, he is going to be one of the first 3 names on Scotland's team sheet. Doak is absolute class. Luton Town, Josh Odell Batur, age 18. 18-year-old defender, has looked decent. I haven't watched Luton friendlies. Next, Man City, James McAtee, age 20. I can't even begin to imagine how filthily talented James McAtee is. This is a diminutive 20-year-old midfielder who's been carved and moulded in the Man City Academy since 2013. This Salford-born kid has tiki-taka football etched in his blood. I mean, this guy must be sickeningly good because it's in the family. His older brother James is now a Premier League player with Luton Town, while his great uncle is a World Cup winner with England, Alan Ball, and now he's trying to catch the attention of Pep Guardiola, and it's working. He has looked seamless in the field this summer. His technical ability is so saucy. Even watching this guy's first touch would almost be enough to put you in a coma. He looked absolutely sizzling on their Asian tour, even banging the goal in the win over Bayern Munich. I know it was a tap-in, but still, scoring against the German champions in front of 65,000 fans. It was probably a bigger thrill than if I bumped into Mourinho on the bus. I mean, if that happened, I'd probably do an excited piddle on the floor. Man United, Kobbie, Mainoo, age 18. How is this for originality? Never mind footballers. I don't think I've ever heard of another human being called Kobbie. I'm all for it though. I like the originality. I mean, instead of rifling through the big book of baby names, the parents have just made something up. Great. I mean, when I grow up, I think I'll name my first son Snobbly. Why not? Who are we kidding? I'm never having a child. But listen, Dan Gore is definitely a Man United preseason star. Someone who's literally brought it upon himself to shout at Harry Maguire on the pitch. I mean, Anthony Onana is a Champions League finalist. I get him stamping his authority. But Gore, you're an 18-year-old little boy. You probably still go trick-or-treating with your mum. You probably bring an X-Men lunchbox to work. Simmer down, Dan. Maguire was recently Manchester United captain. I mean, imagine a trainee child trying to shout at Roy Keane. They'd very quickly be picking their teeth out of their soup the very next day. But forget about Gore. This summer is all about Kobbie Mainoo, an 18-year-old midfielder who's been at Old Trafford for 9 years. He's an England underage international who was Manchester United Young Player of the Year last season, and he's absolutely bossed the US tour. He commanded the midfield against Leeds and Lyon, absolutely bossed things in a start against Arsenal, keeping a £100 million potato firmly stuffed down his sock before being given a start against Real Madrid. The fact he was injured just a few minutes into that match, I'm sure he probably did spend the night punching a pillow in disgust. But honestly, watch out for this guy, because he's a future star. Newcastle, Elliot Anderson, age 20. Elliot Anderson is the real deal. How daunting must it be for a young Geordie kid trying to make it in the Newcastle first team when they're literally the richest club in the world? Poor old Matty Longstaff was an absolute priority before the takeover. I mean, after scoring against Manchester United, they were beleaguered, trodden down old Geordies who would probably have thrown their firstborn in a bid to guarantee a new contract for this kid. I mean, it was around the time the club were trying to bring in the likes of Hamza Chudori, offering no more than a couple of fivers and a free egg sandwich. But now, poor old Matty is old news and probably interviewing for a job at Costa Coffee. But Anderson, to be fair, he doesn't seem daunted. He's been the club's best player in pre-season, scoring against Gateshead, scoring against Aston Villa, scoring 2 against Brighton, and mostly looking top class against teams like Rangers, Chelsea, and Fiorentina. He's a 20-year-old local lad who could play anywhere across the midfield, and will surely have Scotland and England officials fighting over his passport now. Let's put it this way, if there was never a takeover, Newcastle would be begging him not to leave. Nottingham Forest, George Shelvey, age 22. Nottingham Forest have 2 Shelveys on their books. Who knew? George is slightly less scary than John Joe. I mean, he doesn't look like a Harry Potter villain. Just a regular guy whose mum probably still combs his hair. With all this fuss about whether or not Dean Henderson comes back to the club, Shelvey is probably praying that he doesn't, because he's a 22-year-old budding young goalkeeper who's actually impressed in pre-season. Who needs Dean? Sheffield United, Louis Marsh, age 19. I'm going to be honest with you, Sheffield United fans. Your pre-season has been absolute wet dog food in a chew. The abject, spineless draw with Estoril. Their hideous defeats against Rotherham, Girona, and Stuttgart, when you conceded 6 goals and scored 0. I guess young attacker Louis Marsh has shown glimpses, something of an attacking spark, but otherwise, yeah, it's been a horrible summer. Tottenham, Destiny Udogie, age 20. Destiny Udogie is brilliant. This man has been in the absolute starlet of Tottenham's summer. It feels like Spurs have been trying to experiment with the left-back position for years. But Udogie, after a lone stint with Udinese, the 20-year-old has returned to pretty much start every preseason match. He scored against West Ham, has struck up a pretty devastating relationship with Son Heung-min on the left flank. He's been part of 2 monster 5-1 wins. He is going to be the starting left back this season. He's the highlight of Tottenham's summer. West Ham, Divin Mbama, age 18. Put some respect on Divin Mbama's name. Most of you will never have heard of this child in your entire life, and I realize getting excited about West Ham Academy prospects can often leave you looking like a toothless ogre. Remember the huge fuss from Mark Noble 3 years ago? Practically waging war against the club's owners because they sold Grady Diangada to West Brom? I mean, what was all the fuss about? it was like throwing a needless tantrum because your mum threw out that headless Barbie doll, which you haven't played with in 7 years. Diangana is now 25 and insufferably average, but Mabama, so young. But he's a nippy striker who's impressed, scored against Perth Glory, Tottenham and Dagenham and Redbridge, although did start in that 4-0 embarrassment at Bayer Leverkusen, but mostly has looked bright. Wolves Joe Hodge, age 20. I'm excited about Joe Hodge until I'm not. He's the Ireland under-21 captain. He's a former Man City Academy star, a defence midfielder who's excelled for Wolves in pre-season, looking so comfortable on the ball. But I mean, he was also born in Manchester, so you just know he's the next Declan Rice. Anyway, that's the video. Let me know in the comments what you think, and who was your best kid in pre-season. Let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give a like, share, and subscribe. And as always, I'll talk to you in a while.